Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck, and I'm a professor of political science at North Central College. And this guy is Phil Barker, and he's a professor at Keene State College. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Bill.
So what we're going to use these YouTube videos for are quick hitting. We'll go for 5 minutes on a particular topic, and when the bell goes off, we will certainly try to stop talking. So
Dry.
All right, so here we go. Bell starts now. Phil, the blockbuster story this week came out on Friday night in an article in The Atlantic, which said that President Trump has privately referred to American troops killed in combat as losers and suckers. Big deal, little deal, or no deal?
So we've talked, we always say that multiple things can be true. And I think this is, this is a big deal,
It's a
right?
big deal,
This is like the idea of a president talking this way. And the article, it's not long. People should go read it. I mean, it's not just troops in general. It's, targeting John McCain. It's like, General Kelly's son, right? It's crazy stuff. It's a really big deal, but it's, I don't know, maybe it's like politically, I want to say it's maybe a middle deal because it's, there's some stories that have come out this week about how Trump seems, we've talked about it, how he seems sort of like he's made of Teflon. Some of this stuff, it just doesn't matter. And so that part I'm torn on. What do you think? Is it going to matter politically?
In a normal world, it's a huge deal, right? In the Trump world, I'm not so sure. We've had a bunch of moments like this, whether it's the Access Hollywood video or impeachment, that we always feel like is going to be a bigger deal, and he gets through that. That being said, they have to be worried about this. I mean, this is a core constituency they're hoping to turn out and vote, the military families. And it's also part of that narrative, right? Trump likes to be the wrap himself in this faux patriotism. So that hurts their ability to spin who they are and what their campaign is. So I don't know. I'm like you. I'm torn. They're scrambling. So I think obviously they're a little worried about all of this.
Well, I mean, the polls, I mean, the military is a sort of Republican friendly base, but there's a lot of polls out there that show that Biden is leading with the military. I mean, none of this is particularly surprising, right? Like after 4 years, Trump, it is like psychologically impossible for him to wrap his mind around the idea that someone would do something selfless, right? I mean, it kind of fits. I mean, there's all of these stories that go back a long ways about the military specifically, about like, he just doesn't get why someone would ever choose to do that. It's so different from any other politician that we've ever really dealt with.
It is. And what makes this a little different than some of the other stories that come out is that he's going to his usual playbook of saying this is fake news, there's nothing to this. But what you've seen is that the Associated Press has come out and confirmed this, the Washington Post, and even last night, Fox News confirmed it, right? So here we have a situation where you have a really credibly sourced story that's devastating. He comes out and says it's fake news, and you have all these other outlets saying, no, there is something to this. And you have General Kelly and others who are not discounting it. I mean, this is one where it feels like it can certainly hang around his neck for a while, because this is, again, I'm talking myself into being a bigger deal.
Well, I mean, I think that's true of so much in the Trump era, in that things can be both a big deal. Like this is a huge story, a massive scandal that, like you said, continues to be corroborated. Fox News, it's clear, can't figure out really what to do with it. They've corroborated it, but then they've sort of attacked the reporter who did that, and Trump came out and attacked the reporter, so now they're defending the reporter. It's like they can't quite figure it out. But it is a huge deal that really it's kind of a perfect example of politics in this era. It's a massive story, and yet nobody can quite wrap their head around whether it's going to actually matter or not. I do think that the story of the Trump administration in some ways is that it is a lot of these stories. No single one seems to matter massively, but each of them matters in small ways. So if this is a story that flips 1,000 voters or 10,000 voters across the country, when you add that up with all these other stories, each one doesn't seem important, but cumulatively they make a big difference, right? We get to this point where Biden's up by 10 points, and it's because of these sort of, everyone sort of has their breaking point, and it's not always rational or kind of obvious what it is, but something like this happens and it changes a few people's minds.
Especially the closer we get to the election. So we're basically 60 days out from an election, and these things are going to be remembered. The news stories move quickly, but this is one that's going to be there for a while. And the other thing is, this was just a softball to the Biden campaign. I mean, Biden came out yesterday and I thought had an just a really powerful statement. It felt authentic. He was clearly upset. He could reflect about his son. I mean, this is just bad campaigning by the Trump administration, and I'll be curious to see whether they can handle the fallout.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the story just has so many bizarre elements. The big one, obviously, is what Biden has latched onto, what, the Lincoln Project has latched onto. The ability to like turn things around instantly into ads is kind of remarkable. But there's so many other elements to this story, like when it gets into, obviously, the McCain stuff, the George H.W. Bush calling him a loser for getting shot down or whatever. But also the idea that this kind of originates around this visit to World War II cemeteries. I heard the bell, but I'm still talking. Around these visits to World War II cemeteries and whatnot. And part of it was that he saw them as losers, but part was also that he didn't want his hair to get wet, right? I mean, he's so self-absorbed.
And it's one of those stories where, it's corroborated, but it also feels like something what Trump would do. Even John Bolton, who was there and apparently didn't hear this, said, boy, this sure sounds like something the president would do. So yeah, we will continue to watch this one. The bell went off, so we'll stop. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'll post more of short videos like this. And also feel free to tune into the podcast, the Politics Lab, which you can find on everywhere, right? Everywhere, Phil, that we can put the podcast.
New episode, on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and Spotify and all of that stuff. New episode will be out this Wednesday night.
All right, tune in. Thanks, everybody. See you soon,
Bye,
Phil.
Bill.